My name is Andrea Klim, and I'm an astrological counselor and a shamanic practitioner from the local Manchester area. And we have a pretty interesting show planned for you today. As you can see, the title on the bottom of the screen is Unleashing the Power of a Grand Trine in Water, and we know exactly what that's about here. Today is July 23rd, and the rain is just pouring down on us, and it's been quite a ride in here this morning. So I have Sheila Clark here again with me today, and she is a guest, and welcome, Sheila.
Thank you, Andrea. Nice to be here again.
Oh, it's awesome having Sheila on the show to, collaborate about the astrological influences, and it's certainly been quite an incredible time experiencing this Grand Trine in water. And you're probably saying to yourself, what is a Grand Trine in water? And I'm going to show a picture of that right now on the screen, what a Grand Trine in water looks like. And you can see on the screen is where the red arrow is pointing to on the bottom right is Neptune in the constellation of Pisces, and in the middle of the chart you can see what looks like a pyramid. So if you follow one of those lines to the very top where that green arrow is pointing to, 3 planets all in the constellation of Cancer, that's Jupiter, Mars, and Mercury. And then if you follow down the side of the pyramid, so to speak, and you see Saturn over on the left bottom side of the chart where that blue arrow is pointing down, you can see Saturn, the planet in the constellation of Scorpio. So we're going to talk about what this means, because it is a harmonious configuration between 3 planets, and you can see that behind Sheila and I also. The background, we have 3 planets, and they're all lighting up the center, which is us here on Earth. And it is really a beautiful, harmonious configuration. And it is, as I said before, in the element of water. And we should probably talk a little bit about the Saturn in Scorpio, the Neptune in Pisces, and the Jupiter and Mars in Cancer. Sheila, do you want to talk about that just a little bit, about what that means?
Yeah, the basically unleashing the power of this Grand Trine in water. Mars, the planet of extreme energy, desire, assertiveness, aggressiveness, in Cancer, all about the maternal, the tenacious, the cautious. Saturn, of course, planet of transformation, intensity, power. In Scorpio, the intensity of our inner feelings, relentless, obsessive. Scorpio also planet of karmic lessons. So we're looking also at Neptune, of course, our idealistic, imaginative, intuitive Neptune, with Pisces, spiritual. They feel everything, universal feelings, compassionate. So there is a lot of beautiful energy in this Grand Trine of water. But by the same token, water, as beautiful as this energy is, it could be formidable and unstoppable. A force if it's unleashed without boundaries or containment.
When I think about it, it can be emotionally noisy.
Yes.
Because
yes.
Water is all about emotion, and as human beings we tend to react through emotion. And so when we have the stimulation of water with Saturn, which is a planet of structure and can be sort of rigid, and making sure that we are going through the transformations that are being brought into our life, so it stimulates the emotion to work with the structures of change. And Neptune in Pisces, that is also a planet that we can talk about suffering, how people suffer,
Yes.
but it is also the planet that helps us to understand, so we can resolve that the things that we suffer from. I find that this water energy is stimulating dream time incredibly, and I'm having dreams of things that are happening a couple days later. And even in Jupiter, as you were saying, it's a planet of expansion, and it sort of rules over the things that we search for. And so we are searching for that protection that comes with our family, with our roots. But and it's interesting. I find, how we saw that in the chart, that grand trine looks like a pyramid.
Yes.
And so I thought I'd do a little research on pyramids, which I thought I'd bring that forward as part of our discussion today, because the pyramids were actually created based on spiritual values,
Exactly.
and they thought that they were ancient symbol of reaching up to the heavens, bringing heaven and earth together.
Yes.
So, I did a little research on that, but one of the things that Sheila and I'm going to jump just a little bit here and go back to the pyramids after is that we talked about, yesterday a royal baby was born, and that royal baby was born to William and Kate Middleton, and they became the parents of the little one they're calling the Prince of Cambridge.
Yes.
And he was born with this grand trine in water. And so we have his chart. Actually, there it is, the baby's chart. And we thought we would show that to you and talk about some of his personality traits and what that, what life is going to look like for him in some ways. Sheila, did you want to go in and talk about that a little bit? Because I know Sheila spent a little bit more time than me on it. And he does. What was on the rising sign on the Earth was Scorpio, but he has an incredible. You can see 2 grand trines right there in water. So it's interesting. Water does. Grand trines in water in anybody's birth chart does dictate a very sensitive person, a person who carries a sense of harmony and peace within them. Also, though, historically we've studied grand trines in water, and we, sometimes they mean that people can become lazy.
Yes.
And, a little bit, what's the word? Comfortable and just being stuck in this peaceful, blissful, dreamy state. Did you want to add some things to that?
What I wanted to add, Andrea, is that right off, of course, I had to go do this chart immediately after the little fellow was born yesterday. I see a stellium going on in his 8th house, all in Cancer. Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter, all in Cancer.
Yeah. Oh, that's not the right chart. It's the other chart. There we go. And what that's okay. Sheila is talking about on the very top of the chart, around 1 o'clock. You can see, 4 planets there, all in Cancers, just so you can get a glimpse of what she's describing. And I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Sheila, but I just wanted to point out so people could get a visual,
That's okay. Yeah, and I was also, as I went through his chart, I noticed he has a lot of water energy, tremendous amount of water energy. So there's going to be a lot of emotion coming out of this little guy as he gets older, to help get him used to his environment that he's going to be living in. That's basically what I saw as I went into it. I love, of course, the Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Scorpio, Neptune in Pisces.
Yeah, and what I thought is that when I first looked at his chart, I thought he would probably be, a very loving little boy, one of those that loves to cuddle and be held and nurtured, but he'd also do that for other people.
Yes.
And one of there are some things that you can certainly see that challenges that he'll face in life, but I think that he will end up taking after his dad and being in the armed forces, and that you can certainly see that, and that he's also going to be a very responsible little boy.
Yes.
And when it comes to values and sense of worth, he holds a great strength, and I do think that he will, relating with his father, that there would be some trials and tribulations there that he would experience, and even with the people of England.
Yes, I'm also, I did want to mention, I'm seeing him born at a very critical degree of his cancer.
Yes.
His son in Cancer. 29 degrees, 59 minutes is what I have for
that's
him.
what I have too. One more minute and he would have been a Leo.
Yes.
But he's not. And,
no.
Sheila and I were discussing on the way up here in the elevator, we were discussing that he carries a strong resemblance of his personality to Princess Diana. And when I did the royal wedding on TV and for NBC back in 2010, I studied her chart quite intensely, and we both felt very strongly that there is the possibility that this little soul is Princess Diana reincarnated, and we both felt that was a very strong possibility.
Yes.
And he's quite interesting. One thing that does bother me is that he was born with that Mars opposite Pluto. Usually oppositions are things that come at us that change our lives.
Yes.
And we don't see them coming. There are things you can describe it as you're sitting in having a party, and a car drives through the party room and everybody scatters to save themselves, So as Sheila said, he is born at a critical time in our evolution. And probably one of his biggest jobs will be in finance and the finances of the country, He is third in line to be the Prince of England, or the King of England. The King of England,
exactly.
Right. Did you want to add any other, we're kind of overviewing it, but...
Basically I'm seeing him, I do feel like he will take a very responsible approach to when the time comes for him to be trained to be king, or to go through the process of that training. And I'm also seeing a certain relationship always with his past.
Yeah, and his, it's true. And it would be certainly in his life will really dictate that he does have that strong faith in the unknown.
Yes.
Because that is the path of his future, is to have faith in the power of change.
Yes,
and his part in it. And I did some research on some other celebrities who have grand trines in water, and Joan Baez, who was a folk singer activist, Tina Turner, Robin Williams had grand trine in water, Donald Trump, grand trine in water, George W. Bush, O.J. Simpson. And, it's interesting because a grand trine in water does bring that harmony, that sense of peace, that nice flow, but it does... depending on the planets that are involved, it does stimulate, it can stimulate a person to be somewhat lazy and thinking that they should just have things come to them.
Yes.
So there's also many criminals that have grand trines in water in their birth charts, as well as people who have these feelings, these strong feelings and emotions, and so it takes action to bring the opportunity of the grand trine in water to life, to bring those opportunities. So what I feel is that people with these grand trines carry a special peace and charm, tranquility about them. They're very compassionate. They can be very nurturing. Their sensitivity flows easily. A concern can be that the energy can carry, as I said before, laziness, relax. They're relaxed and accepting, but they can also be great escapists.
Yes.
But they do tend to typically have romantic inclinations, and they're dreamy and somewhat passive. And we want to talk in the show. Sheila and I had discussed this, is that it's very important that we offer tools for everyone of management of this energy, because this is going to stay with us through the beginning of August. And we certainly have seen the physical aspects of this grand trine in water. There's no stopping the flow of water and the amount of rain that we have had. And Sheila actually did some investigation into that. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, actually, for right now, it's truly all about water energy, physical and emotional. We've had a rainy summer and predictions of more rain ahead. It will not only be, it's not only going to be very powerful emotionally, but also physically in terms of flooding. Gee whiz, our water tables in Boston, 186% of normal. New York City, 169% of normal. That's just to name a few. We've also had lots of warnings up here, in particular about the rivers certainly moving very fast, and warning people to be careful on the rivers. I had one interesting tidbit here I thought was interesting that had to do with water, and that is the issue with front-loading washing machines.
Well, that's a very domestic thing.
Yeah. So apparently they're having an issue with some of the front-loading washing machines with mold forming in there. So I thought that was kind of different. But we've had a lot of heavy rain, water rescues, fast-moving rivers, floods. Just as a matter of fact, on the 22nd, terrible flooding out in, I guess it was Arkansas and Missouri, and also Las Vegas.
Yeah, we've seen it in the news. People being rescued from their cars that are caught up in floods. That's very true. And well, what I did was Sheila investigated the physical influence, which she, was telling me how, we know water is a very powerful element. And we are 95% water, right? And so there is that strong physical influence, how very powerful water is. And one of the things I wanted to bring up historically, Sheila, was that when grand trines in water have been present, the prophecies of Nostradamus were written during grand trine in water. And Charles Dickens, actually, the last time Neptune was in Pisces, such as what we have now, which is part of one of the planets forming the grand trine in water, Charles Dickens also wrote A Tale of Two Cities. So they're based on emotion. It drives us to take action on things.
Yes.
So these are things that happen. And also, one of the things I do want to say historically that we have seen is that grand trines in water have been known to precede times of war.
Yes.
Such as August of 1990. But also, it also does tend to be a time where it ends war, because peacemaking.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So people with water, do, and grand trines like of this strength, they're very strong. So there's also many, as we said before, there's many famous people that have had the opportunity to really take their grand trine in water and make something of themselves. They've worked hard with expressing their feelings, and it's beautiful. Beautiful pieces of artwork have been created. The other thing is that there is a great there is a great spiritual philosophy and empathy that comes through a grand trine in water. And anybody alive right now with planets that are between 2 and 5 degrees of any sign are going to feel the influences and the opportunities, but might also feel the crisis of the grand trine in water. So I wanted to make sure that we brought those points up as well. And and the other thing I noted about a grand trine, the pyramid, is that it's on our dollar bill here in the United States, and it has the eye inside of it. So it is a symbol of everything flowing nicely, harmoniously, you know. So did you want to add any other pieces on that grand trine in water, or offer any insight into how people could use that, Sheila?
Well, I did want to offer a few things on the upside. The upside is, yes, it's going to be highly opportunistic.
Yes.
We may be a little more weepy, we may be a little more emotional, but we will form deeper connections. Certainly our psychic ability, our psychic awareness is going to be really expanded to a greater degree. But along with this comes a little bit on the downside, and as you had said, there's no stopping the power of water, the water energy, once it starts flowing.
Yes.
Water can cut through just about anything when it needs to flow. So the challenge, I think, here is to be motivated and focused into action.
Yes.
That's one of the things I wanted to bring about. Dealing with these very powerful emotions. Be careful with our emotional responses as well.
And you know what I would suggest to our viewers is any tool that you can learn to help manage your emotions in a positive way is going to be very helpful. And I do want to just tell our viewers about something that I'm doing August 10th at the Yard. I have teaching a class on shamanic journeying, which meditation is a great form of peace and to bring in peace and relaxation, but journey is an incredible shamanic journeying is also another incredible tool. So www.turntothestars is you can find information about the shamanic classes on there. And do you have anything that you might want to offer as far as tools, Sheila?
Yeah, I did want to also allude to the meditation.
Yes.
Very important at this time, extremely, especially in the state of all this water energy. That's one of the things. Empathy, compassion, help us to center a little more within ourselves as well.
Well, we are just about at the end of the show, so I want to say thank you for joining me, Sheila, and thank you everyone for watching Turn to the Stars. We appreciate all your support. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.